It is my view that minarchism is a very dangerous philosophy, and not because I don't want less government. Of course I do. I want less government to the point of nothing, in the same way that I don't if I'm sick. I don't want less sickness. I want no sickness. That's my goal. But I think that minarchism is a very dangerous philosophy, and I'll tell you why. Either the minarchist is going to succeed or the minarchist is going to fail. If the minarchist fails, then the philosophy means nothing and the government continues to grow, which you could say is what's been happening for the past, say, 10,000 years. But if minarchists succeed, and I believe that they did succeed in 1776, I don't think that you could come up with a better laboratory experiment for the success or failure of minarchism than the creation of the American Republic. It was a beautiful theoretical laboratory proof of the possibility and practicality of minarchism. And what has happened since then, we are all aware of, and that's why we're here, is we went from the very smallest government, which was about, 1%, 2% of what it is. We went from the very smallest government in 1776 to the very largest, most powerful, most terrible, most destructive government the world has ever seen. A government with the power to destroy the world many times over. First time in history that's happened. Never had a government that big and powerful before. Is there a relationship between a small government at the beginning and a big government at the end? I would say that there is. Because a small government that respects, to a large degree, property rights and opposes the initiation of force creates what? It creates a free market. Once you have a free market, you get staggering explosions in wealth. Right? Once you get in a society a staggering explosion of wealth, more money is available for taxation. More money is available for the military. More money is available for the endless hordes of social programs and social engineering that bureaucrats and politicians and statists love to do. When you get the smallest possible government, you create a free market which builds wealth, which builds power, which then government swells to take over. It becomes a gold mine for those who want power over others. If a man makes $100 a year and you tax him at 50%, he will revolt because he can't live on $50 a year. But if a man makes $100,000 a year and you tax him at 50%, he won't rebel. Which is why we're here and not in the streets, because we can survive on what's left over, because there's so much wealth in society. So when you start with a very small government, you create the conditions for a massive explosion in wealth that creates the greatest prize that politicians can get a hold of, which is the productive energies and wealth of a free, prospering, industrious, free market society. That's why I think minarchism is so dangerous. Another way to look at it, if you don't mind me stepping into metaphor lands, and hopefully I won't get too much of it on my shoe, is a guy comes to a doctor, two doctors. There are two doctors in a row, Dr. Minarchist and Dr. Anarchist. And yes, that would be a great superhero villain, don't you think? And the guy comes in, he's got some honking tumor hanging off his side, right? And he says, Dr. Minarchist, can you help me with this tumor? Because it keeps growing, and I have to get it cut, and then I have to go into chemotherapy, and my hair all falls out, and it's just terrible what happens. And Dr. Minarchist says, well, I can cut it down. I can shave that thing down for you. 80% maybe I can get it down. And the guy's like, but that's happened 20 times before. I've got my tumor shrunk down 80%. It just grows back, and I get sicker, and I have to go to chemotherapy. So what can you do? He says, best I can do. He says, well, can't you just cut the tumor out completely? He's like, oh my God, no. That's utopia. That's crazy. If I cut out your tumor, you're going to get spontaneous tattoos on your forehead, mohawks. You're going to be riding around motorcycles with Mel Gibson. It's going to be chaos and anarchy and dogs living with cats and all kinds of horrible things, right? Scare stories abound if I cut out your tumor completely. He says, but if you cut it down, it's going to grow back, he says to Dr. Minarchist. Dr. Minarchist says, don't worry, I've got a plan. What's your plan? Well, I'm going to cut your tumor down by 80%, but when I'm in there, I'm going to take out a magic marker, magic being the operative word. I'll lean over, and I'm going to write on that tumor, don't grow. And I'm going to call it a constitution. Because we all know that tumors respect constitutions, right? And then it just grows back. Now he goes to Dr. Anarchist, and Dr. Anarchist says, out it comes. It's a tumor. It's always going to regrow. It's happened hundreds of times in the past. It's going to happen again. So we're not going to compromise. We're going to cut it out because I know it's going to regrow. And that is the way that minarchism looks to an anarchist. It is a tumor.